Hi everyone, we're in Miami today. We're going to be talking about hydrocarbon extraction and the deployment of membranes within that hydrocarbon ecosystem.
Started doing hydrocarbon extraction, I would call it professionally, in 2013. The biggest challenge is that it could be very dangerous. You're working with an explosive solvent. Primarily these days, it's color. The lighter the color on your extract, typically, the better the assumed quality. Is when you run through the membrane, it doesn't change the terpene profile. It doesn't change the flavor of the concentrate.
I'm here with Alex from Critcal, and we're going to talk about that. So if you're interested, keep watching. So Alex, tell us about yourself. Tell us about your experience in hydrocarbon extraction.
Well, I started doing hydrocarbon extraction, I would call it professionally, in 2013. Before that, I had messed with it a little bit. We had certainly done backyard extractions, as I would like to call them, craft, using primarily glass tubes and cans of butane. And we just did it for fun. We really liked making oil. It was a cool way to infuse the joints that we were smoking. So that was primarily our motivation behind getting into BHO, or hydrocarbon extraction. In 2013, we moved to California, and we started to explore the California market with our primary focus being cultivation. But quickly, we really, we learned that cultivation is a really tough game in California, and it's tough to compete in a market where there's been, really excellent growers growing really great cannabis for many, many years before we ever got there. So we kind of started to try to find our niche in the market. And we found that hydrocarbon extraction was what we did best. And it's what separated us from the pack, I suppose. And so we started kind of dabbling in it, really just to pay the bills. And it ended up being what really separated us from everybody else. So we kind of kept going down that path. And we were able to really, start making some really, really high quality concentrates. And when we started bringing them to the stores, to retail stores, everything that we saw there it was pretty good. But, I feel like our stuff was a little bit above what we were seeing on the shelf, and it gave us an opportunity to get into the market. So with finding an advantage in market, we really tried to use that to our advantage. And so we started to make hydrocarbon extracts at a larger scale. And, that became, it went from a side hustle to our primary thing that we were doing. And little by little, we started improving our tech. At first, I think that we had really good concentrates, but not, industry leading quality. But within a few years, we became highly recognized for the quality that we're producing. We won HempCon in 2015. And that really kind of kicked off, our rise to be industry leaders in hydrocarbon extraction. And shortly after that, we started entering more well-renowned cups, like High Times. And, we really started making an impression there. I mean, I think there was a lot of companies that were making really, really great quality stuff, and we just wanted to compete with those guys. And we found that over the next couple of years, after we started competing in cups, that we were really able to, elevate our company Critcal, to really, really high position in the market. And so that really is my background with hydrocarbon extraction. It's something that I've had a passion for a long time. I think that concentrates something that, to me, is special because I personally like smoking flower, but I've always felt that hydrocarbon extraction gave us the opportunity to refine those concentrates and the products that come from flower to an extent that, it just couldn't achieve with flower by itself. Is potentially more damaging to your lungs. And so I thought, well, maybe we make these concentrates, we figure out a way to clean them up, make them really high quality, that maybe this is going to be something that's going to be good for me, good for us, and good for others long term. So that's my background in hydrocarbon extraction.
Safe to say you've got a lot of experience.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Fantastic. So in all these years working with BHO, is that the correct term? And I say this because I'm a solventless guy. So maybe my terminology is not as on point as it could be, but in your experience, what are the biggest challenges that you have in your typical extraction lab?
Yeah. I mean, everybody calls it BHO. To me, it's always going to be BHO. I think that, obviously the correct term is hydrocarbon extraction, but there's a lot of challenges. The biggest challenge is that it could be very dangerous. You're working with an explosive solvent. You're working with high pressures in some situations. Things can go wrong. Things can go sideways. I certainly know of a lot of people that had accidents making BHO products. And so that is really a big challenge. The other big challenge is creating a really high quality product. Purity is a thing that's not easy to achieve. When we first started making hydrocarbon extractions or BHO, everything that we would make would come out sort of amber or brown, sometimes darker even. Then little by little, we started figuring out little tips and little tricks that we can do to improve our quality, to reduce the amount of fat that was in our concentrate, to reduce the other contaminants that were in there, to lighten up the color in particular, I think was really one of our first big breakthroughs. And that's always been achieved before CRC. It was achieved using very, very low temperatures. I mean, we're talking -70, -80, -100. We would steep our columns in dry ice, which leaves like about -105. So, I mean, it requires an intense process and a deep attention to detail. So, I mean, all of those things to execute on all those points, it's not an easy process for sure.
And what's the most important determining factor when you're making the extract? I mean, what is the consumer sentiment? How does the consumer decide typically what a quality extract is versus one that is not? Like, how do you gauge that?
Well, I mean, primarily these days it's color. And I mean, back in the day too, I mean, the lighter the color on your extract, typically the better the assumed quality. That is usually a pretty good measure for quality, but it's not the end all be all, because I mean, I've certainly had, some beautiful live resin concentrates. I mean, I could even give you some purple tangy from OG Steve and Zeinstein Gardens. We ran a lot of that back in the day. It's an incredible terp profile. Just, really, really lucky to work with material of that quality. But the actual color on that particular concentrate, and a lot of the orange terpene heavy concentrates have a more orange or maybe even closer to amber color. So that doesn't mean that it's a low quality concentrate by any means. And at the same time, I've seen trim run before CRC, that was super light quality. I remember a buddy of mine gave us a giant, bag of his dry trim that he had been sitting there for like 4 or 5 weeks. And we ran it and it came out a beautiful golden color. So color is not the end all be all to determine quality, but certainly it's one of the factors that you can definitely do something by the color. And obviously for me, the most important thing is the smell, the terpenes. What is the flavor of that concentrate? That to me is a more important factor, but holistically speaking, I think the terp profile, the smell, the flavor, and the color are the two biggest factors to determine what a quality concentrate is. We can go down and get into minutiae of it. I think that the polish or the finish on the concentrate is also a factor, because you could have really good biomass, you could have really good extraction, then on the polish you might fuck it up, and it might not come out to the level that you want to present that concentrate at.
And so what do you do to overcome those challenges? How do you achieve that great color and that great flavor that you're looking for?
It's really all about attention to detail. I mean, you have to have attention to detail from beginning to end. From the moment that the plant is growing, if your room heats up and your material gets stressed out, and the biomass that you end up pulling from that room is lower quality material, there's no process in the whole world that's going to bring that material back to be a high quality concentrate. It really starts off, maybe not from seed, but from the point that the plant is growing, making sure that you have a clean groomer, a clean grow if you're growing outdoors. The plants are well fed, that they're happy, that you're making sure that the plants are not deficient, that they don't have pests, that they're not being sprayed with anything that's going to affect it down the line, like sulfur in particular, which a lot of growers used to use a lot of sulfur to prevent powdery mildew. But then down the line, you go and extract the material, and it's unusable because it smells like rotten eggs. So it's attention to detail from the point that it's a plant, the point when you're pulling the biomass and freezing it, the point when you're even processing it, getting it ready to be extracted, pre-process, actual extraction, post-process. And I mean, you could even go down the line and say you can make a really, really high quality concentrate, and somebody's packaging it and beard hair falls into concentrate. That's not a good quality concentrate if you mess it up at the last step. So it's a holistic thing. There's no magic bullet in extraction, I think. So it's attention to detail.
And what are some of the tools that you use in your lab just to really hit that highest quality stuff?
We use very, very, very low temperature extraction. We would actually have columns where we would stuff them with dry ice, and we would buy either rice or pellet dry ice, ideally rice, because rice really gets in every nook and cranny, and fill those columns on the sleeves all the way to the top with dry ice. That was really what gave us the best quality and the best color. And we could really get some really, really good quality material from other growers that they were doing their own extractions. Companies that are still in the space and, putting out tons and tons of concentrates in California, they sent us their material, and we were producing quality that they had never seen from their own material. So we would really rely on really low temperatures. But in 2018, 2019, CRC kind of became really, really popular in the industry to the point where it's completely overtaken as the standard operating procedure in all hydrocarbon extraction, much to my chagrin, because I'm personally not a big fan of CRC. I feel like the powders and the clays, these magnetic clays, like while they do achieve a higher quality concentrate, it's hard for me to say that it's a better concentrate than if you hadn't used a CRC. And a lot of it, to me is the fact that these powders are not selective with what you're pulling out of there. You could have a broad spectrum of compounds being pulled out of your concentrate, and some of those compounds that are being pulled out potentially are going to change the flavor, the smell, and unless you're 100% certain these clays and these medias are clean, you could also run into the issue of potentially contaminating your concentrate with whatever is in those clays. And I know for a fact, maybe not so much these days because definitely the clays have improved. But at first, I definitely smelled in the clays as we were packing them and receiving them, that definitely you could smell in the final product. So there was a transfer of something from the clay into the final product. So those are some of the challenges I saw with CRC. And so, while I saw an opportunity to make a more high quality concentrate, everybody wants to always make a pure concentrate. If we could make something that's pure, healthier, and, it's going to perform better both in your cartridges, and it's going to leave less residue on your banger, on your Puffco. We definitely want to do that, but we don't want to sacrifice the flavors and the smell of that concentrate, and we don't want to put anything in there that could potentially harm anybody. And there's been a lot of debate about this in the industry, but I'm a firm believer that the CRC is just not the way to achieve the best possible result. We've been working a lot with membranes lately, and membranes, I think, give us a unique opportunity to achieve high purity without the removal of anything that is significantly important in the final product. Where, the membrane is only creating two different product streams. So you're separating it into two streams. So you have 100% of the mass that you put in. There's nothing lost. you're only separating out. And if you believe that something in the in your retentate stream should be in your final product, I mean, all you got to do is take a look at it, and you'll know for a fact that that's everything that's in the retentate is everything that you would want to keep out of your final product.
Just really quick to clarify,
Yeah.
you get two streams. The retentate, which is what is retained or doesn't actually flow through the membrane, and then you have your permeate, which is what permeates through the membrane. And those two things can have different functions depending on what you're doing, right?
Right.
But yeah.
So the membrane has, small, tiny holes measured in Daltons, right? And we're talking extremely small holes. And we're using high pressure, like about 500 psi, to push through the compounds that we want to have. The terpenes are very small, so they're able to pass through the membrane. The cannabinoids can be pushed through the membrane, but we're able to actually remove all of the chlorophyll, a lot of the carotenoids, many of the flavonoids. I mean, they're actually really, we get a no detect on flavonoids after the extraction. And something that a lot of people don't know is that the flavonoids actually impart a bitter taste on the concentrate. And if you've ever had concentrate or a vape that has a bite on the back of the throat, or a spiciness, you might call it even like a spiciness in the back of your throat, that is primarily caused by flavonoids. Flavonoids in cannabis actually are almost like a bittering agent. And so by removing them, we can have a better experience, a more pleasurable experience for anybody that's smoking either the vape or the concentrates even.
Very interesting. Very interesting. And I'm just trying to wrap my head around why it's important. So instead of using a powder of some sort that is a consumable, which adds cost to the operation, it can modify your flavor. I'm following. And then also there's some labor involved in packaging. I've played with these powders, and they're not the friendliest to work with. They can definitely be eye irritant and lung irritant, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely.
So definitely, if you've ever worked with these things,
you gotta mask up and have protection, because these powders are very fine and could potentially be harmful.
But I'm just not following it. I mean, if this already works and it's fine, I mean, what is the value of using these membranes? I mean, what do they do that is so significant?
Well, the membrane doesn't add or remove anything from the concentrate. Like I said, you're creating two product streams. One that whatever passes through the holes of the membrane, and you have also a second stream that's whatever is retained behind what's too big to pass through those holes. Terpenes as a whole are all small enough to pass through the hole. So every single terpene that's in your concentrate is going to pass through to your final product in your permeate. The cannabinoids are bigger, but also they're small enough to pass through. Chlorophyll, on the other hand, is too big to pass through the membrane. Flavonoids are too big. The carotenoids, for the most part, are too big. I mean, they do pass through, but we're able to remove a significant amount of carotenoids from the concentrate.
And so what is the difference? I mean, really, honestly, I'm sort of thinking, yeah, but so who cares? I mean, you can do this already with a CRC.
Right.
Why are membranes better, if at all? I'm just not really comprehending the value in it. You know what I mean?
Well,
have you had some sort of what is your experience with it that sold you on the technology, that convinced you so much that this was the way to go, that you wanted to, dedicate yourself to actually promoting this type of technology?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the problem with CRCs and powders, unfortunately, they do impart some sort of flavor onto the concentrate. And so it's tough because with membranes, you have your whole concentrate. You have all your permeate, you have all your retentate, and the sum of the two equals the same amount of concentrate that's at the beginning. With CRC, you have these filters where you're passing your concentrate through. That's, number one, it imparts, and there's debate on this, but I believe that there's just no way that you can 100% not impart some sort of flavor onto the concentrate that's in the powder already. So the powder has this embedded smell and flavor that is obviously transferring something onto the final product. The other part is that these powders have affinity to certain kinds of compounds. And it's my belief, and I know that many people will agree, that there's certain terpenes that have an affinity towards these powders, because when you run different kinds of concentrates through there, you get the tendency to have a very similar terpene profile on the final product. Whereas when you run through the membrane, it doesn't change the terpene profile. It doesn't change the flavor of the concentrate. In fact, it really just, it makes it more vibrant and more discernible. And the final product, in my opinion, is, you know, I've had side-by-sides, and our partners that we're working with on this.
Tell us about that, your experience as far as like having consumers actually taste your product. Like what is the general consensus of the use of membranes, and how is that impactful to your bottom line in relation to the cost of, say, a CRC? Like,
no, that's also a big factor too. I mean, even if CRC was a perfect technology that worked just as well as membrane technology, CRC is a consumable product, and these powders are not cheap. These powders tend to be very expensive, and so
but membranes aren't cheap either. So
membranes aren't cheap either, but I think that side by side, apples to apples, it's more economical to use a membrane than it is to use these powders.
But what about, I mean, so you actually have to get a consumer to buy your product. I mean, what is the taste preference for the consumer of this technology versus, you know, your classic?
We're working with partners on this. They're helping us develop the technology, and you know, they've had the opportunity to actually do some sampling with their customer base, actually put it out there and have their customers tell them exactly what they think of this product. And by and large, the consumers prefer the membrane filtered oil over even typical live resin. I mean, they've had cured resin from, you know, and it's good quality cured from from indoor material or greenhouse, and they've ran this stuff through the membrane, and side by side with even live resin concentrates that are not membrane filtered, they're seeing an overwhelming preference, as high as 7 out of 10 consumers preferring the membrane filtered oil to the traditional filtered oil.
That to me is really all I really care about. Yeah, so it's less operating costs and easier to manage than CRC. But I don't know, just like, because there's a learning curve, to me, really the cost savings of buying powders and loading them in labor, all those things like that are really insignificant if the product is not somehow better. But such a drastic improvement in preference, that's insane.
Yeah, no, I find it really insightful that, you know, when our partners on the technology that are helping us develop the technology, when they did a blind taste test and they wrapped like electrical tape around the cartridges so that the consumer wasn't able to actually have the visual cue as to, you know, which is which. They did greenhouse material membrane filtered as one of the options, let's say. And then they had cured, unfiltered, live resin unfiltered, but, you know, all high quality extractions. So they're not low quality extractions. These are the products they already had in market versus the membrane filtered oil that they're bringing to market now. And 7 out of 10 consumers preferred the membrane filtered oil, which was cured material, over the live resin traditional extraction method and the cured resin in the mix. Yeah. So it's by and large, like, consumer preference is it dictates that it's a higher quality product. You know, it's you have I think that you could throw CRC cartridges in that mix, and I'm certain that it would outperform the CRC vape cartridges as well.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I can totally see that. So one of the concerns that I have, and I'll say this from a sales person perspective, from a technical perspective, gosh, membranes have such a bad rap. It just seems like whenever you talk to someone about membranes, from a sales perspective, you know, I talk to people about membranes all the time because obviously, you know, that I sell membranes, and And I just sell everybody's membranes. You know, like I work with a lot of companies, but whenever I have a conversation with somebody, it's not starting from zero. It's like, tell me about membranes. It's like, I already know about membranes and everything is negative, negative, negative. So first you need to like dig people out of a hole to start at zero. And so what sort of experience and track do you guys have actually running a membrane system? And when I say this, it doesn't count if you have a desktop baby skid running a few grams for a few minutes. I mean, have you guys actually ever run this in a production facility for more than a day? Tell me about your experience about that. Have you actually done this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we, like I said, we work with one of our partners is a industry leading company. They're doing this at scale. They're running thousands and thousands and thousands of grams of biomass, and making, I think their average run size is over a kilo per run, and they're filtering not all, but most of their oil is getting membrane filtered, and they're able to achieve a real clean filtration through the membrane within an hour or so.
And then the membranes are not messing up on them. And you're talking about like a real live production facility for somebody that's making thousands of vapes.
One of the most scaled companies in California.
And the membranes are not changing membranes every 3 days.
No, absolutely not. The membrane is, it has a pretty long shelf life.
Awesome. And just a note, I know who the client is, of course, but my experience is when companies have a competitive advantage, they really don't want you to know about it. So they try to keep these things secret. It sucks for us, right? Because we're in the business of selling equipment, but that's the reality. That's kind of why we can't disclose this kind of things, but everything is going to be out in the open eventually. But that's wonderful to know because like I said, that's the big one. Does it work? How long does it work for? And does it work in a production, in a scalable environment where just you're making thousands and thousands and thousands of, in this case, vape pens, I'm assuming?
Yeah, primarily vape pens, concentrates, but in a scaled lab, but we've seen it, it works perfectly in their process. It doesn't slow them down significantly in any kind of way. There's no major issues. There's no clogging. As long as you have a good SOP with the membrane, there shouldn't be any issues. Membranes have, been used in so many applications. They're used in industrial settings. They're used in food and different oils that are sold that are commercially available for non-cannabis applications.
Yeah.
It's used to
Alcohol-free beer,
alcohol-free beer,
lactose-free milk,
lactose-free milk.
stevia.
Yep. So I mean, there's tons of places and tons of different industries that are using membranes for products that we consume on a daily basis. So I think that
So you mentioned that SOP was very important.
Yep.
And so if somebody's interested in membrane-based systems, what sort of products do you have available, and how can you help them scale their operations?
So we're developing a skid that uses the membrane technology. The skid will allow for you to be able to basically purify your concentrate, and it does it in a very streamlined way where you'll be able to plug it right into your process. Essentially, anybody that runs BHO equipment knows that it's very much like Legos, right? And so you can plug it in right into your process by adding, you need one extra surge tank to hold your concentrate. But aside from that and the skid, that's all the parts that you need to be able to remediate your oil using membranes.
And do you teach people how to use this thing?
Yeah, we can absolutely teach you how to use it. Personally, I'm going to be doing the installations and trainings on these particular skids when we release them a little bit later this year.
That's fantastic. So you can hit the ground running.
Mm-hmm.
What about the tech specs of these systems that you've got coming up? I mean, can you share any kind of technical detail of what we can expect, or I'm just kind of concerned that what size lab will it be compatible with? What brand of equipment will it work with? I mean, what about,
The membrane will plug into any hydrocarbon extraction system. There may be a necessity to adapt to the connection type, but aside from that, there's no reason why it can't plug into any kind of system. The pump is, I believe, 14 amps, but aside from that, it's relatively low, low power consumption. As far as tech specs, it's fairly adaptable to almost any operator. The only real difference might be the connection type. They might have to adapt to it. But aside from that, it's works. It'll work with any skid, any brands, Busy Bee, ETS, Iron Fist, Illuminated, etc. Anything can be adapted to the process. And in terms of any other kind of specs that are significant, it's very low power consumption. I think that's actually something that should be mentioned, because the chillers that are required to actually chill down the process to be able to achieve similar results by by doing a cold extraction, an ultra low cold extraction. Some of these chillers cost $20,000 to $30,000 a month to run. I know that, for example, our partner on the development of the technology, they have a Cryodax 60. That Cryodax 60 stays on 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, unless they're doing maintenance on it. And on average, it's costs about $20,000 to $25,000 a month, depending on the rate.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
With the use of this technology, they're able to extract at a much warmer temperature, not have to do extreme low, temperature extraction, and they're able to achieve the same quality. And actually, I would say, in my opinion, even better.
And do you offer like any automation options, any digital controls or anything of that nature? Or is it all just analog, very manual?
So we have two models. One is an analog version that uses simpler sensors that are not as expensive, a very rudimentary temperature sensors, but effective for all intents and purposes, and very similar to things that you would find on skids like a Busy Bee, for example. But, for anybody that needs to have that has a necessity for, GMP or any kind of data logging, and, has to see the temperatures at during the entire run, we do offer a digital version that comes with a PLC that sits outside of the room and can actually give you feedback on the process.
And what guarantees are you offering people that the technology is actually going to work? Given that sour taste in many consumers' mouths, what sort of guarantee are you guys offering as far as the actual does it work of the device?
Well, we offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, and barring any kind of abuse or damage to the equipment, we will take it back 100%.
And you just give me all my money back if I don't like
We'll
it?
give you all your money back. Yep.
Any limitations?
Just that if there's any damage to the membrane, any damage to the equipment, obviously, we're happy to honor that, but we gotta make sure that equipment is still usable.
That's super cool. And so, where and when can you buy a machine?
We'll be releasing at MJ BizCon this year. So if you want to come by the SC Filtration booth at MJ BizCon, you'll be able to see the membrane filter, and we'll be more than happy to show you some of our products that we've made with the membrane filter, as well as talk through it. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer them there. We'll be there during the entire time they're at MJ Biz. And we are taking pre-orders now, so if you're interested in getting a system, you can absolutely reach out to us or reach out to SC Filtration. We're going to be distributing the equipment with, and pre-order yours right now.
Yeah, so if you guys are interested in membrane filtration, so we appreciate the opportunity to be working with Alex and Critcal Tech. We're impartial. We work with everyone. We sell systems from many vendors, membranes from many manufacturers, and manufacture our own membranes. So you can trust that, like, I'll just tell you like it is. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And if there's a problem, we'll fix it. I think that you can't beat a 30-day money-back guarantee. We'll just give you your money back. Just don't like it, something wrong with it, you heard the man, we'll just give you your money back. So, yeah, just reach out. You should come by MJ Biz. throughout the year, hopefully we can host some demos so people can actually see it.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the plan. The plan is to be able to install this at one of our partner labs, and we'll be able to have people come by and see it. We're ideally going to have one on the East Coast in New York, and one on the West Coast, more than likely in California. But we want to be able to bring you there and actually show you the process, show you the start feed, the final, the micella in right after the extraction, the final product, and even try out the vapes or in the concentrates. It's if you have a good product, you should be able to be completely transparent with it, and that's what we want to do. We want to show that this is we feel like this is the next big step in hydrocarbon extraction, and we really believe in it, and we want to be able to show it to anybody that wants to really step up their game in terms of hydrocarbon extraction.
Fantastic. Right on. Here's a small teaser for you guys if you want to have an idea what the system looks like. Check this video out.
Introducing the Critcal NovaPure, an advanced membrane nanofiltration system designed to refine propane and butane-based botanical extracts. Using a closed-loop recirculating flow, the system selectively removes unwanted molecules with precision, thanks to spiral-wound sheets featuring nano-sized pores. Say goodbye to costly absorbents and filters that alter flavour. Instead, experience the pure essence of your extracts by removing lipids and flavonoids that contribute to a bitter taste. This cutting-edge filtration technology purifies crude extracts, enhancing flavour and shelf stability by eliminating unwanted lipids, flavonoids, and colour bodies. The result? A superior product preferred by 80% of consumers on a blind taste test.
And as always, thanks for watching. And if you're going to stop by MJ Biz, please feel free to reach out. Cheers.
Cheers.